All right. Today is day 132. Today I have Chan on the Zoom with me today. Chan, how you doing?
Good. Hello, hello. Thank you for having me, Kent. Thank you for teaching me.
This is what we do this for, right? This is what the community's for, and I want to be able to help you think about your alternatives. So
Hmm.
the reason we got on this call today, right, Chan, is that you want to think about, well, if I want to move to somewhere and I don't have to pay for rent, which the other term is called house hacking, is there an opportunity for me somewhere else? Right?
Right.
Where do you live right now, Chan?
I live in a northwest suburb called Skokie, about 20
Oh,
minute drive from downtown Chicago.
okay. All right.
Hmm.
Well, today we're just browsing, and I happen to be looking at a development in the Raleigh Durham area, specifically southwest of that. So I said, okay, well, why don't we just look at some random properties? So when we talked about house hacking, right, all I did was I simply went to Durham in North Carolina. Tons of growth out here. I think lots of tech companies, lots of biotech stuff is coming out here. So great job prospects. So what I did was I just simply looked at, well, let me look at the multifamily properties here because you want a house hack. So you want to live in one unit and rent out the other unit. The other benefit of that, and again, I'm not a CPA, I'm not giving any financial advice, not giving any accounting advice. But one option you can get is if you live in there as a primary residence and let's say you live in there for 2 out of 5 years and decide to sell it afterwards. Well, as an individual, you get up to $250,000 of capital gains exempted. So you don't have to pay taxes on it if it goes up by 250 grand in this property. So that's one benefit. But I went ahead and I just looked at some properties and I said, okay, well, I found this little fourplex here. So here's what I did to at least get started. And I want to go through the process with you today. Just jump in, unmute. Don't have to raise your hand or anything. Just jump in, unmute, and just ask me any questions.
Hmm.
But well, let me ask you, if you're looking at a place to live,
I
what
am.
what do you what would you look for?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like all the things that for your screening process, you always look for dirty carpets. And I learned the terminology LVP from you. You like exchange that with luxury vinyl floor. So yeah, dirty carpets for the first screening process. Washer and dryer, is that in unit? And a crime
Well,
rate. Crime rate. Yeah.
crime rates.
Yeah,
I like looking at crime rate, and well, for me, I just want to walk around the neighborhood, right? Because
exactly.
you
Hmm.
probably want to be able to walk around your own neighborhood without any sort of fears or oh, this is good. So this is just one street over. I like it when I see properties like this because it shows that one, these are generally pretty new builds,
Hmm.
and it shows that at least somebody saw that there is growth opportunities here, and they built some new houses here. But for the most part, I don't see a lot of signs of very rundown homes. I'm looking for like very boarded up homes, and only in very, very specific markets are boarded homes like technically a good sign, like in Detroit, where sometimes the flippers will board up homes while they're renovating to prevent any squatters from getting in. But
Kent,
for the most part, I don't really want to see that.
I have a question. So, like, how far would you go around? Like, right now, you're going a couple streets over, but like, let's say two, 3 blocks down too. Is that if you start seeing boarded?
Good question. My question to you is, what would you feel comfortable with? Right? And that's usually been the number one advice I've been giving people is it's more of, hey, let's not pretend you're the business owner, just like if you're working a corporate America job, pretend you're the CEO. Like
Yeah,
what would you do to solve that problem, right? I think coming from W2 world, we've been accustomed and trained that we're always looking to someone
right.
to give us directions on what to do, when to show up, etc. But once you enter the real estate world, at that point in time, you're just solving problems whenever. So,
Yeah.
all right, that's good enough of a walkthrough. Didn't really see any issues there. And I'm assuming they're giving you pictures of the best looking unit right now, right? That probably would make sense.
Yeah.
Renovated bathroom, renovated flooring, and that's for one unit. Let's kind of read the descriptions really quick. It's a quad. Walk up to East Village. These units have been remodeled in the last few years and have good tenant base. Most leases are in holdover status, capable of rent increases. Many single-family homes are being remodeled or built new in the immediate area. That's a fact because we saw some new homes built there. All units are 2 bedroom, 1 bath with air conditioning and ample parking. It's been on the market for a while, 140 days. It's a long time. Maybe they're overpriced, is what I'm guessing. So, okay. Well, let's go ahead and do some estimates here. We just took a look at property. We just took a look at street view. The next thing I want to do is I want to gauge what the crime score looks like. So I went to tophap.com for this property. I plugged in 111 Alma Street, Durham, North Carolina. And what I'm doing now is I want to go to the neighborhood section. And here's your crime score. That seems pretty good to me.
Yeah. Because you said your benchmark is 85 to 90.
Yeah, because that's literally my neighborhood where I live.
Yeah.
So if I feel safe in my neighborhood, I think
Yeah.
it's a good benchmark. But that's why we did a street drive-by, right? Most of the time they lump in crime stats by zip code. So depending on what your population is and etc., you might have a disproportionate amount of crime based on the population. So it might be higher. I'm not really sure how they calculate it. I just used it as a very, very general quantitative score to qualify what I saw from like a qualitative standpoint that I saw on a street drive by, right? That's all it
Mhm.
was. Okay.
Yeah.
The next thing I want to do is I want to get the FMR, the fair market rents. And do you remember why we get the fair market rents? Have you seen some of the videos we've done before?
Yeah. It's in my notes here. I know that well, to compare the to market rent, and then also you mentioned typically housing authority will do a rent reasonableness test.
Yeah. Great answer. You're so prepared. I love it. So I'm gonna get the county. This is in Durham County.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna go to HUD FMR and find a smart FMR. Then we're gonna pick the state and a county, which is Durham County, and then we're gonna get the fair market rents, which is the rent ceiling for these
Yes.
properties, right?
Mhm.
So 27703, 27703, and the rent I want to get here is the fair market rent for a 2 bedroom property. Why? Because there are 4 2 bedroom units. That makes sense?
Yeah.
All right. So 1340 is my rent for a 2 bedroom. So let me write that down here. 2 bed, 7.
Wait, was it eight? Two bedrooms?
It was 8 bedrooms total. So 4 units of 2 bedroom unit or two
Oh,
bedrooms.
got
Does
it.
that
Okay,
make
okay,
sense?
got it, got it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this property was 27703, 277 or 1340. 1340, 27703. And you can underwrite it any way you want, right? I just like noting down my numbers for myself to make my life a little bit easier so I remember a little bit easier. All right, next thing we want to do is we want to get the market rents, right? So we're going to go
Mhm.
to affordablehousing.com, go to the owner section, go to the market rent estimator, plug in the address, and then plug in the bedroom count, which is 2, right? Because that's what we saw. And here you're going to see that the market rent is 1306. And when you compare 1306 to 1340, that's literally right on the line. So I'm going to feel really confident that I can get at least 1340 in rent for each unit if I were to rent it out to an affordable housing voucher holder. Make sense?
Mhm.
All right, 1686. I'm just going to write down the rents for the other place, 1618. And 1713. Okay, 1340. So if I do equals 1340 times 4, let's assume you don't live there, that would be the total monthly rent that's available to the property if you were to rent out all 4 units and you bought it. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So that's where we are right now. And the other thing you want to look at is you want to look at the payment standards. Okay. When I simply Googled Durham County Public Housing Authority, oh, there it is, 2024 payment standards, it brought me to a website where it says, boom, Here's all your payment standards by bedroom count for the city or county of Durham. Now, I want you to pay attention here. The two-bedroom number here is different than what we saw on the HUD website. Why? Two reasons. The first reason is that usually a county or city might have adjustments to what HUD deems as the fair market rents, which means that let's say you're in Metro Chicago, very high standard of living area, so they might increase the amount of rent for the payment standards because they recognize that they're in a very expensive area. So they might be like 110% or 150% of the FMR. The second reason why it might be different or higher or lower is because payment standards include utilities. So if you think you can charge 1631 for rent for each two-bedroom unit, you have to provide utilities.
Got it.
But you might imagine like why that could get expensive, right? What if someone cranks open the air conditioner and leaves their windows open? What if someone has a leak and they don't tell you about it because they're not responsible for the water bill, so they're not incentivized to take care of the water leak problem, right? These are all the problems. And in order for you to calculate that, if you want to charge and get the full payment standards, you have to deduct what you're not covering. So 1631, if you go to utility allowances, and I'm pretty sure I looked up who's covering it, but if you don't know how to, you can just look up Duke Power, just see where it is. And usually they can tell there, see, check if it's Duke Energy. You want to see who your provider is, right? If it asks you for that, because this is how they're determining your utility allowances, right? So, which means that, hey, for your low-rise apartment, which that's what you are right now, if you do not provide natural gas space heating to your tenant, you have to take the 1631 and you subtract $50 from it. And that becomes your maximum rent. Make sense?
Yeah.
But that's the whole reason why I had to look up Duke Power, because this housing authority decided to separate out the utility allowances by the utility provider, which is Duke Power or Piedmont Electric. So again, the whole goal, what we're doing right now, is just to get the payment standards, get the fair market rent, and get the market rent. So for me, what I'm going to do underwriting today is just using the fair market rent, because I don't want to go into all that math about calculating what utilities I'm going to cover. If you want to do that, you can simply just go into utility allowances, take that 1631 number that I showed earlier, and just
30.
simply start subtracting. Yeah, you see right here. If you don't provide water for each unit, you subtract $31. If you don't provide sewer, you subtract $44. If you don't supply trash collection, you subtract $22, right?
Yeah, and it's for each unit.
For each unit.
Yes.
Correct. If you don't provide a microwave and a stove range, subtract 21. You don't provide a refrigerator, subtract 25. So this could add up like really quick. But if you provide it, you might also be responsible for maintaining like these little appliances like the microwave and a range and a refrigerator. So that's going to be a personal decision that you have to make on that front. Okay. All right. And honestly, if you do provide a refrigerator, get the ones with like the maintenance plans, because it's probably going to get messed up. Someone's going to do something to it, and you want a more predictable cost, for lack of better words, instead of spending $100 here, $100 there. All right. So let's go back to our property and let's plug in the property tax number. So I'm just going to assume I'm take that $197 here from the Redfin for our property taxes, $197. And my insurance premium is $274. So I'm going to do equals $274. And I'm assuming that that premium is a little too low. I'd like to put in a little bit more buffer on insurance by making it 20% more expensive. Usually investment properties cost a little bit more for insurance policies. And I never want to assume that the insurance policy that they quote on here is exactly what I'm going to pay for this property. Because honestly, I don't know. But you can get a quote from an insurance broker afterwards.
Okay.
Again, the whole point of what we're doing right now, Chan, is to figure out whether it's worth our time to keep going. That's all we're doing, right? All right. So let's plug in the rest of our expenses. We got 10% for our maintenance, because we're setting aside money every single month for repairs. We got 8% for property management. You might be closer to 10%. But But hey, if you live there, maybe you don't have to pay 10% and you keep that money to yourself, right?
Mhm.
Vacancy, I'm gonna go up to 5% for this property because I don't really know the area. How do schools look? Schools are okay. There's like 1 5 out of 10. I usually look for at least one school that's at least 4 or 5 out of 10. My elementary school was ranked like number 5, so that's what I use personally for my benchmark. But everybody has their own sort of preference. I went to a 5 elementary school. I turned out just fine. So that's what I'm gauging it at. That's all it is. So I am going
Wait, Kent,
to,
I actually
yeah,
have
go
a
ahead.
question before we move
Mhm.
on too much. So I feel like I don't have the intuition built enough because I know like when you were doing the analyzing of the Detroit property, we you did 12% for property management and then also did 30% for the premium for monthly insurance. But then this one is a bit different. Like what would be the best like conservative guesstimate?
For property management, you want to be between 8 to 12%. That's usually been the property management range. For vacancy, I would only go to 3% if you think someone's going to live there for like 10, 15, 30, 20 years. And that means that you have a single family home, large backyard, great schools. Think of it as if I got this property, I hit the jackpot for my family.
Okay, thank you.
Like I've only gone as low as 3% for vacancy whenever I know I'm getting a home in a gated community with a swimming pool, basketball court, and everything, and with a great school district like 8, 9, 10 school ratings.
Mhm.
Because for me, and I think about it from my mom's perspective, like that would have been a life changing for her, and she would have felt tremendously lucky to have had a home like that for a single family home. So that's how I look at it. But at the end of the day, remember, right? 2% on property management, 2% of vacancy, it should not make or break your deal. Could it get you on the line? Sure. But if you are so close to making it not a deal simply because of that 2%, chances are it wasn't a deal to begin with. Because then you're really on the line of losing money. And you don't really want to do that. Okay.
Okay.
So for this property, I'm assuming they all been recently renovated. So I'm going to assume that I'm just going to set aside like $3 a square foot to paint the entire place. Usually I assume that there's always some painting involved because if there's people that's occupied and they move out, chances are there's dings all over the place and whatever. So that's how I go about it. I usually assume there's 1,500 bucks for a roof repair. That's just personally what I've seen. I've never bought a home that didn't have at least 1,500 bucks of repairs in a roof. Somebody always finds something. They're like, oh, there's a little leaky hole here, and they're like, it's 1,500 bucks, and it becomes 1,500 bucks easily for these roof issues. So interior painting, I'm gonna put 3,000 square feet right here, $3 square foot. I'm gonna assume all the floors are okay for the property, so I'm zeroing that out. There are 4 bathrooms. I usually like to replace all the toilets with high pressure flush toilets. That's just my personal preference. You can save money and your toilet's probably be fine, to be quite honest with you, but that's just me. I haven't had any toilet flush yet, knock on wood.
To
So
prevent plumbing issues.
yeah, exactly. People flush things down the toilet all the time. And it's wild. I'm assuming the water heater is working because I have tenants there. So I'm not putting anything in there. I'm assuming there's no termite issues because people are living there right now as well. So right now I got at least $15,000 of rehab for this property, assuming everything kind of checks out and is exactly what I heard. Okay. So that's 15,360. All right, let's get into the numbers now. So what we've got is that we've gotten the rent, we've got some expenses. Now we have to figure out a mortgage payment. In order to figure out the mortgage payment, I'm going to assume for this property, let's just go with the highest scenario first. It's a 25% down payment. And for an investment property, usually that's about an 8% interest rate. It's probably going to be lower if you use a primary 3,000 square feet right here, $3 square foot. I'm going to assume all the floors are okay for the property. So I'm zeroing that out. There are 4 bathrooms. I usually like to replace all the toilets with high pressure flush toilets. That's just my personal preference. You can save money and your toilet's probably be fine, to be quite honest with you, but that's just me. I haven't had any toilet flush yet, knock on wood.
To
So
prevent plumbing issues.
yeah, exactly. People flush things down the toilet all the time. If I charge my maximum rent at 1340, so my total rent would be 5,360, I would make, or quote unquote, I would lose $358 a month on a property. and negative 2% cash and cash return. That was assuming a $700,000 purchase price with a 15,500 rehab. And that was assuming a 25% down payment. And that was mortgage interest of 8%. Now let's change it up a little bit. What if you went out right now and qualified for a loan and said, "Hey, because of the new mortgage product they have out right now, where they allow you to go as low as 5% down payment for a multifamily property, and now all of a sudden you're able to get 6.5% interest rate. What does that result in?
But then you'd have
Now
to live in one, right? So minus one unit rent.
you would have to live in one, correct? So now I will subtract 1340, right? Because you're living in one. But let's say you only had to put 5% down and you are getting an interest rate of, let's say, 6%. Now at 5% down, at 6% interest rate, mortgage interest of 8%. Now let's change it up a little bit. What if you went out right now and qualified for a loan and said, "Hey, because of the new mortgage product they have out right now, where they allow you to go as low as 1 or 2 bedroom unit for two
God,
bedrooms."
studio and one bedroom goes for 1,800. I was just checking today. 1,800 and above.
Okay, so now you have your baseline,
Mhm.
right? I can pay 1,700, 1,800 for a studio one bed, or I can quote unquote pay 1,500 bucks, but I know that 1,500 bucks is going right back into the property that I own. See the logic there?
Yeah. So with the 5% down, the new law that passed, could
I'm not sure there's a
you
new law. There's a new product, I think.
oh yeah, okay. I know.
Hmm.
Could you potentially live in the area for like a year and then start the process over again in another
Yeah,
multi
most people live in for 2 years, and I think they
two
start
years?
over.
Okay.
And they usually stay for 2 years because if you live there for 2 years, right, you can rent out for 3 more years and sell it, and you will still have $250,000 of capital gains exempt from income taxes because you would live for 2 out of the past 5 years there as your prime residence.
Okay.
Make sense?
Mm.
And that's why house hacking is so beneficial. And here's what I want you to look at. That was my how would I say it? I would call that my worst case scenario. You think about it, right? What we just did there was, hey, let's assume you pay 10%
Oh,
of
mhm.
maintenance. Like, let's assume 400 bucks goes to fixing something every single month. Let's assume that you pay someone 10 new laws. There's a new product, I think.
Oh yeah, okay. I know.
Hmm.
Could you potentially live in the area for like a year and then start the process over again in another multi
Yeah, most people live in for 2 years, and I think they
2
start
years?
over.
Okay.
And they usually stay for 2 years because if you live there for 2 years, right, you can rent out for 3 more years and sell it, and you will still have $250,000 of capital gains exempt from income taxes because you would live for 2 out of the past 5 years there as your prime residence.
Okay.
Brand new build, so that's probably not comparable to your property. Oh, that's so ugly. What is it? 3,700 for brand new, 3 bedroom. You only want it for 2 bedrooms. So there's a 2 bedroom that runs for 2,000. Another 2 bedroom that runs for 1,745. So you could potentially have a property here, or one of the units as a midterm rental, which means you typically rent for 30 days to 90 days at a time, so like a travel nurse or something. And now all of a sudden you can get additional, we're at 1340, right? So additional 400 bucks extra a month. That could be a good deal, but I'm not so sure it is because remember, right? We just saw this property for the payment standards was 1,600 for 2 bedroom. This is only extra 100 bucks. So why would you invest all the extra money to furnish it for $100 difference? Because
Mhm.
you still have to cover utilities, right? For a midterm rental, because you have to cover utilities.
Yes,
So that's a
that makes
problem,
sense.
right? The other way you can go about it is, well, now all of a sudden you can go to Durham and you can look for just 2 bedroom properties only. one bath, and you want to look for apartments. And now you can see, well, what if I don't rent out to market section 8? Is there a market rate unit that's higher? Well, not really, because you see all these other units, they're all around 1,200, 1,300. So why not get the resident that has the housing choice voucher that has guaranteed rent every single month?
Got it.
So this is where you're at a month. That could be a good deal, but I'm not so sure it is because remember, right? We just saw this property for the payment standards was 1,600 for 2 bedroom. This is only extra $100. So why would you invest all the extra money to furnish all these other units? They're all around 1,200, 1,300. So why not get the resident that has the housing choice voucher that has guaranteed rent every single month?
Got it.
So this is where you're at right now, right? Could this number be higher? Could this number be the 1,600 number? Yes. But then if you want to get the $1,600 number, you have to go figure out, okay, well, how much is my utilities going to cost me if I want to get the full rent, right? Because we saw utilities. We saw that the Durham payment standard, and I have to jump up in 1 minute,
Yes.
but this is the work that you can do.
Hmm.
You can go in here and say, well, if I get the full payment standard, which is what we saw at 1631, if I want to charge 1631, great. I can go take this number and say 1631 times three, or right? Because we have 3 units, you're gonna live in one.
Hmm.
And then I need to figure out how much is the cost for sewer, how much is the cost for